Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Always a delight to have in the studio Nisha Jackson. She heads up Ventana Wellness. She's sipping her coffee because she doesn't want to have a low coming around 1 or 2 o'clock this afternoon. And that's what we're here to talk about, beating the afternoon fatigue, right?
Right.
Can we do it?
We can do it. We have a plan.
You have a plan?
We have a plan.
I just want to ask one simple question. Is water in the plan?
Water's in the plan.
Okay.
Water's always in the plan.
That's all we need to know. So now you can contact her. VentanaWellness.com. That's the website. Well, this is a biggie because, as I said earlier today, I've tried not to have anything sweet at lunch.
Yes,
I have a protein
that.
lunch. Now, I'm not always good at this. I'm not a purist here by any means, but I learned if I have something sweet at lunch, after lunch, if I had a piece of cake, candy, or pie, which is tempting to do around here, I'd get the crash about a half hour later.
Yes, especially if you're susceptible to blood sugar highs and lows.
Yeah.
Some people actually never get the highs, they just go right to the low.
Yeah.
But if you're susceptible to that, you have a family history of diabetes, you have a family history of being overweight, obesity, or if you have a family history or personal history of low blood sugar, hypoglycemia, if you eat something sweet after lunch, within 30 minutes to an hour, you should be hitting the bottom. So that's one of the easiest things you can do to clear that up. But one of the things I wanted to explain to people today is that we actually have a circadian rhythm in our bodies, right? Which means a natural rhythm of hormones and a natural rhythm of sleep patterns that we have built into our system. And the interesting thing is that there are 2 times during a 24-hour period of time that we get sleep signals. And one of them is obviously at 10 o'clock at night. We get a pretty major sleep signal, which tells our body it's time to go to bed. That's the normal rhythm. But guess when we have another one? 2 p.m.
Yeah.
So it's part of our natural rhythm to have a sleep signal, which means we probably should be having some kind of a siesta.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really not that far off.
Yeah.
Because our body's telling us to take a rest at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we probably should be doing that, but that's not really how we're set up in today's working world.
To the coffee pot.
Right. We grab some sugar, we grab some coffee, we grab something to try to get us back up again. But it's normal to feel tired at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that, because so many times people think there's something really wrong with them because they have the afternoon sleepiness. Wow. So if you can't take a cat nap at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, there are some other things that you can do. So I want to tell you what you can do.
I was trying to figure out another way to justify the couch in my office.
It's really not a bad idea to take a nap, because even a power nap, which is what we really suggest, it's sometime between noon and 2, not really after 2 p.m. because then that interferes with your sleep at night. But if you can take a 10 to 20 minute power nap between 12 and 2, it actually would be right in line with your own body rhythms. But there are other things that you can do that I'm going to recommend.
Well, is the cycle only one of the symptoms that would cause it? I mean, you're saying we have a natural low at 2-ish in the afternoon.
Yes, it's a natural circadian rhythm. If your circadian rhythms are even on target, some people don't have normal rhythms because they're working through the night or they're staying up too late, and it interferes with their natural sleep pattern. So they may not be getting it at 2 naturally, but there's lots of other things that can cause you to feel tired during the afternoon. And those are the things I want to focus on today, is stopping those things and adding some natural health style habits, some changes that would get you a little bit more awake in the afternoon.
Go for it.
All right. First of all, one of the worst things we can do, which seems like everybody does today, is sitting in front of the computer for more than 2 hours at a time, looking at a screen. Because the problem is that we get eye strain. Our eyes become strained when we're looking at a computer for more than 2 hours at a time. So unless you're going to go out and get some special computer glasses, which are available now to prevent eye strain, I would recommend that you take a break from the computer, and instead of sending somebody an email in another department or an email to one of your friends, to actually get up and pick up the phone or walk over to their cubicle, wherever they might be working, and talk to them. Because taking a break from the computer screen will reduce the strain that you have on your eyes, because so many people interpret eye strain or eye fatigue with being tired in general. And they're not really tired, it's that their eyes are strained. So that's one of the easiest things to do. Yes, a computer, an iPhone, or a phone,
yeah.
any kind of phone that you're staring at. And Perry, people stay at a computer for hours and hours.
And hours.
It's unlimited what you can do in front of a computer, not only work, but all the other things that people do. So it's really important to take a break. I actually don't think you should go 2 hours in front of a computer. I think it should be less than that, more like an hour maximum. And it's kind of so habitual now, our staring at a computer or a phone, that you really have to kind of make yourself do that. So that's the easiest thing you can do to reduce eye strain, which we're interpreting as fatigue. The other thing that you can do is plan your workouts. Now, I try to get this, try to get my staff to do this, is sometime during the afternoon on your lunch break or your break at work, or if you're at home, step outside. Now, even if the weather's not that good, just getting up and moving your lower extremities, where most of the blood flow is in your lower extremities, will absolutely wake up your body because you're increasing your circulation. At the very minimum, what we should be doing is what you guys were doing in the previous show, is standing up.
Yeah.
And so many people now are moving to a stand-up desk where you're actually getting some exercise by standing up. You burn more calories standing up. You keep the circulation going. So sitting for long periods of time, not only, like I said, looking at the computer screen, but just sitting for long periods of time makes you very stagnant and causes fatigue, especially in the afternoon. You know, we wake up in the morning and we have all of this great energy, typically, unless there's something wrong with you, and we get all of this done, all of this work done in the morning hours, emails and whatever housework, whatever we're doing, and then we just completely fry ourselves in the afternoon, because that's when we sit down and we keep staring at a screen and not moving around. So it's very easy to get up and start moving around.
By the way, that was proven. They did a test where they showed people who were doing a light treadmill with a workout counter at their computer.
Yes.
They had a higher percentage of not only retention but productivity.
Yes.
You know,
it's very good for the memory.
I was in the hospital the other day visiting somebody, and I saw these new little computer things they have on the screens, or the stands they're rolling around.
Yes.
The little tripod thing. I thought, I got to get a bunch of those for the staff.
I know.
Because they go up and down. You can sit there, you can stand up and work on them.
I know, it seems kind of silly, like why would we do that? But all of these things make a difference in not only our overall health. I mean, we can burn more calories, but it keeps our body more awake instead of hitting these slumps, especially in the afternoon. Sipping green tea. Now, I know I don't have green tea this morning. That will come this afternoon. Okay. But green tea is not only filled with wonderful antioxidants, it is an antioxidant, but it also will help wake you up, but not overstimulate you. The other tea that I really like, although you really shouldn't be drinking it after about 3 p.m., is whole root licorice tea.
Really?
Now, licorice tea, it doesn't actually taste like licorice, so a lot of people say, well, I don't like black licorice, or I don't like red licorice. I don't want you to eat licorice. But whole root licorice tea is somewhat of a stimulant because it supports your adrenal glands, your stress glands. And many times that's what's hitting a low in the afternoon, is that we're kind of running out of steam or adrenaline in the afternoon because we've used it all up in the morning. So sipping some whole root licorice tea is really tasty, by the way. It has a little tiny bit of a sweet flavor to it, but not a licorice flavor. Okay. So that's something you can do too.
I've never heard of the licorice tea, but all right.
Whole root licorice tea, yes. Don't put anything else in it. Having a snack. Now, you talked about what to eat at lunch, and it's so true that we really need to be having protein, but it should start at breakfast time. So if you're loading up in the morning with high sugar or low fiber carbohydrates, so like let's say a bowl of cereal, and there's no protein or very little protein in the morning, the problem is that you're going to hit a mid-morning slump, and then you'll probably overeat at lunch and then hit an afternoon slump. So we want to eat a fair amount of protein in the morning, at least 14 grams of protein in the morning. So that would be equivalent to 1 egg is 7 grams of protein. So ideally, we should be having at least 2 eggs in the morning. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have the yolks with the egg, but you could maybe have 1 yolk and 2 or 3 egg whites. That would be an excellent amount of protein in the morning. And there's other ways you can get protein. But here's the deal with protein. Protein is an amino acid, and amino acids, particularly the amino acid tyrosine, is a direct precursor to the neurotransmitters dopamine and norepinephrine. And those two neurotransmitters are really important for creating more alertness, more attention, more energy. So if we don't have protein in our lunch, we're not going to have the stimulation to those neurotransmitters that are going to keep us awake and alert to get us through the afternoon hours till we get to dinner. So that's one of the things that's so important about protein. It's not just about blood sugar balance, even though protein helps with that. It's also about what it's doing to our brain. It's actually waking our brain up. So we have to have that.
All right, let me take a quick break. We come back. I have one question for you to ponder while we're taking a break. If somebody has the highs and lows of sugar, is that a real possibility that they're diabetic, or can they have that and not be diabetic?
That's usually something that can happen for up to 10 years before they become diabetic. So certainly that could be a pre-diabetic sign.
Wee.
And we should talk about that.
All right. We'll be right back with Nisha Jackson. And by the way, it's VentanaWellness.com. Check it out. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back with Nisha Jackson, and she heads up Ventana Wellness. We're talking about something I think we all suffer with, and that's that afternoon fatigue. And there are some things we can do to avoid it. And I have to tell you, one day last week, Nisha, I had a complete blowout, and I knew I did it. I just knew I did the wrong thing. But I was hungry, I hadn't eaten anything, and there was a gazillion snacks all around, and that's all I did. I did this complete waste out on sugar.
Right.
And I thought, I'm really going to suffer with this, headaches, sore joints, the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
So I went and grabbed a lot of water, and I just started drinking a lot of water. I minimized the problem, but I didn't wipe it out.
Yes. Actually, aspirin, and I really believe this is one of the reasons why aspirin, not Tylenol and not Advil or ibuprofen, but aspirin.
Yeah.
This is why I really believe that aspirin reduces the incidence of heart events or heart disease. You know, the doctors say take one aspirin a day, a baby aspirin a day. Aspirin actually is an antidote to insulin. So it's the insulin that makes you feel so bad when you eat sugar on an empty stomach. So if you, like you just said, your crash where you know, when you wait too long to eat, or you've eaten sugar and then your sugar levels drop, your brain is screaming sugar, it is not screaming broccoli. Yeah. Right? So you have the sugar and it raises the insulin, and it's that inflammatory response that you get from insulin that causes the headache and the irritability and the achy joints and muscles. Really? So aspirin is actually an antidote to that. So you could take 1 or 2 aspirins with a lot of water, and that would reduce the effect.
I would take my aspirin at night, not in the morning.
What's that?
I take the aspirin at night before I go to bed. I sleep much better when I do that.
Interesting. Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah. So we're talking about some things you can do. Breakfast is very important.
Yes, breakfast is very important. At least 14 grams of protein, but the same with lunch. Because remember, what we're trying to avoid is we're trying to avoid a steep incline of sugar and then a rapid drop off. Because every time it drops off, your brain's going to be screaming more sugar and then take a nap. So we're trying to avoid that. So eating more high fiber during lunch and protein. And that goes for dinner too. Some people can't make it to bedtime because they're eating too much starch at dinner. We really shouldn't be having any starch at dinner, to be honest with you, because we're not going to be able to burn those quick carbohydrates off because we're more sedentary at nighttime. So The other thing, as you mentioned, was staying hydrated. So I always use the picture, try to get the visual of your pansies in a pot at your front door, being scorched by the sun, and they're all droopy. And then you can literally pour water on them, and within seconds they look perked up. It's exactly the way our body is. So hydrating yourself, 11 to 16 cups of water a day. So you can do 8 glasses of water a day or about 11 cups of water a day. So that's about how much you need, and we really aren't doing that much in the winter time. So we have to be careful about that, because that is the #1 cause of fatigue, is dehydration. So by the time you feel thirsty, you're already dehydrated. So you shouldn't be waiting till you feel thirsty to drink water. Also, if you're a caffeine drinker, you need to know that caffeine dehydrates you. So you need to drink more water if you're a caffeine drinker. We talked about standing up, but we didn't really talk very much about stretching your muscles. So even if you're having to sit, because some people do sit in their job all day long, you could stand up and stretch, or you can do stretching exercises where you're sitting. There isn't any reason why you couldn't be pushing back your shoulders, which is the whole posture technique to increase your energy throughout the afternoon. Because so many people slump, it actually takes more energy from a circulation standpoint when you're slumping, as opposed to putting your shoulders back and down and getting your spine a little bit more straight. So
what about all right, I'm going to have this slump, and I want something to boost me. I mean, a lot of people will run and get one of those energy drinks. They feel that thing coming on, and they go get one of those. Now even Mountain Dew's come out with one. I don't know what they call it, the Zap or something.
Right, right.
I mean, which is horrible stuff, but they're looking for something to give them a boost. What do you recommend?
Yes, so I recommend actually getting Smart Water. If you want something that has some taste to it, Smart Water is an excellent choice. The first thing that you should be doing is drinking water with lemon in it. So before you go to one of those terrible drinks, I would recommend a full glass. Ice water would be better with lemon squeezed in. And this, if you're working, this is something you could do before you leave in the morning, is take a glass bottle, fill it up with water, put lemon in it, and keep it in the refrigerator at work. So that's what I would recommend. Hydrate yourself before you go for something sweet. Make yourself drink 8 ounces of cold water, or 2 glasses of cold water before you make a choice to either take Advil for your headache, drink some kind of a jolt drink to get your blood sugar, sky high, and your caffeine level sky high. Do the water first and see what happens. But also reevaluate what you've been doing in the last 2 hours, because if you've been sitting for too long, or you had high sugar at lunch, you're going to be hitting the lull. We talked about the diabetes, and I do want to touch on that a little bit. That if you have low blood sugar, that is a precursor to diabetes. Because what happens is that people who make too much insulin, so we talked about you eat sugary foods or foods that are more starch types of foods, and vegetarians seem to do this a lot, where they eat a lot of starch because they're trying to avoid protein. Animal protein, so they eat crackers and breads and things like that throughout the day, and they wonder why they don't feel so good. Not that vegetarianism is bad, it's just that if you eat too much starch, it's not good for your system. Those foods raise insulin. The more insulin you make, the lower your blood sugar gets. So if you've been diagnosed with low blood sugar, it could be a precursor to diabetes. So that is something we really want to control.
And that's preventable.
It is completely preventable. So, and it's preventable by staying physically active and making sure that you are avoiding a lot of those foods that cause your blood sugar to go straight up and straight down. The other obvious thing that we have to talk about is getting enough sleep, because your adrenaline will only carry you so far in the morning. So those sleep signals will be much stronger at 2 o'clock in the afternoon if you've not slept at night. So again, if you're under stress, you need about 8 to 10 hours of sleep at night, which is the exact opposite of what people do. When they're under stress, they sleep less. Their mind's going. They're going to bed later because they're trying to fit more into their day. They're waking up earlier. So 8 to 10 hours of sleep at night if you're under stress, which may be the entire population.
Yeah, right.
If you're taking good care of yourselves, you could be able to get away with 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but really never less than 7. So that's something to really look at, because that's kind of the no-brainer approach to avoiding the afternoon slump, is making sure that you've slept enough during the day.
Wow. Well, I did some catching up over the weekend. I took naps.
Good.
I was tired.
Yeah.
You know, so I took a nap.
Yeah. Reset your system.
Yeah. Does thyroid play into this at all?
Thyroid does play into it. In fact, one of the questions I always ask my patients when they come in and I'm doing a hormone evaluation on them, I ask them, how much are you hitting the wall in the afternoon? Because one of the telltale signs of low thyroid is that they really hit the wall much more than they ever have in the past in the afternoon. Especially if they're doing everything right. They're eating well, they're staying physically active, and they're still just absolutely exhausted in the afternoon. That is one of the things that's very predominant with low thyroid, amongst many other things. Dryness of the skin, hair loss, emotional instability, depression, weight gain, low metabolism. So all of those things even add to the fatigue even more. The other thing that I want to touch on is because the protein helps the neurotransmitter dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that not only helps with alertness and being awake and very focused, but it also is really important for improving your overall sense of well-being. And a lot of people don't really have that sense of well-being. They feel kind of unsettled. So it could be something that's going on in their life, but it could be that dopamine levels are low. So the easiest way that we can raise dopamine is getting good protein in our diet, and maybe even taking a supplement, a tyrosine supplement. That's an amino acid. It's very safe to use, but that could be something that people need more of. The unfortunate thing, Perry, is that many people, to raise dopamine levels, will go to some kind of a drug to do it. They will go to cigarettes, they will go to alcohol, they will go to some kind of drug, they'll go to sugar, they'll go to something else to try to find it, because their brain's telling them your dopamine levels are low. And the way you fix that is you do this. You buy one of these Zap, Jolt, whatever drinks. And that's not the answer. The answer is to fix the underlying problem, which I think is so important. But we never really think about what is the underlying problem.
I don't know if stamina is part of this discussion. Maybe it is, but it's amazing to me how many people, myself included, I think the older you get, you have, it kind of fades on you. But I've also known that you can reverse that by what you eat.
Yes.
But I am surprised how many people get older and they think, well, I'm just older, so I'm just going to, you know, wear out sooner, and they just give up.
Right. I never know if it's just that people don't want to believe that it could be that easy, that I could monitor my diet. You know, I could cut out sugar or significantly reduce the sugar in my diet, significantly reduce the white flour or flour products in general in my diet, and I could feel great, like great energy throughout the day, really good mood, very optimistic. My brain is functioning at a very high level. Maybe they just don't want to believe that that really could happen, that it could be that easy.
Well, give it a shot.
But it's worth a shot, especially Monday through Friday. Yeah. If you want to be sharp Monday through Friday, these are the things that you have to be religious about, because they work.
Okay, well, bring it in for a landing. We got a couple minutes there. How would you wrap this up?
Okay, stand up straight. Get those shoulders back and down. Get that posture nice and perfectly straight.
Okay, I'll sit in my chair. There we go.
Because that uses less energy and increases circulation. Oh. Do some stretching exercises. If you've been looking at a computer screen for more than 1 to 2 hours, it's time to take a break. Get your eyes off the screen. Walk down the hallway. Go talk to somebody. Maybe go outside. Get some fresh air. Moving your body every 1 to 2 hours. If you're sitting for more than 1 to 2 hours, you are going to have fatigue. Drinking 1 full glass of ice water or 2 full glasses of ice water with lemon in it before you make any drastic decisions about having an energy drink or another cup of coffee. Try that first, or having something sweet, because people, when they're tired, they go for sugar. So that is one thing that we're trying to move away from. Having protein at breakfast and some protein at lunch, but also some good carbohydrate. Fruits and vegetables, high fiber carbohydrates are good to have, and avoiding the starch after about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There you have it. Pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
Tyrosine, the amino acid that's awesome for focus and attention.
There you go. VentanaWellness.com, and you won't find any ads for See's Candy along the side of her website.
It's so good, though.
Oh, it is so good. I got some for Valentine's Day. How do you say no to See's Candy?
I know. The chocolate. Okay, don't get me started. No.
Well, chocolate's good.
No, just a little bit of it.
Oh, okay.
1 ounce.
Okay. Anyway, there's some good tips for you today. VentanaWellness.com, great resource, great clinic, and a lot of physicians and specialists there to help you. So check it out, VentanaWellness.com. Thanks, Nish.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you next time. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Welcome back. As always, a delight and an honor to have with us our good friend Dr. Gene Getz. He is the chief editor behind the Life Essential Bible, and I'm telling you, I really think that Dr. Getz could move to Southern Oregon and start a church, and his first Sunday he had to have several hundred show up because people are enjoying our time together. And I'm not kidding you, Gene. More and more people like our study time together, that if you came here, you'd have a church.
Oh, hey, that's really exciting. By the way, just want you to know, you can be proud of me. I'm sitting here drinking this water. I don't have any lemon, but my shoulders are back, and I'm ready to go.
There you go. Well, you're a smart man. You're a smart man. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you.
I'm doing good. Thank you. Just getting over a bout of all this garbage that's going around, but other than that, I'm on the uphill climb here.
Well, good for you. No kidding about it. When we have these studies, and by the way, I want to say to our viewers and listeners, when we get done with Gene, sometime later on this afternoon or this morning or later or tomorrow morning, our time together will be on YouTube at the Dove website at theDove.us, and you can click on that and enjoy these times together again. And a lot of people do that, Gene, and then they share it with their family members and friends, and all of a sudden by the end of the week it's all over the place. And so we've had a lot of people respond here in Southern Oregon and want you to come and start a church. And I said, well, he's smart. He'd never do that again.
Not at my age.
Well, listen, you selected a couple of interesting ones today. The first one is found in 2 Samuel chapter 13. And the principle dealing with love or lust. Wow.
Yeah.
On the heels of Valentine's Day, walk us through this.
Well, basically, the principle grows out of this Old Testament passage. And let me just state it. Here's how I stated the principle related to the context, that men particularly must learn to distinguish between unselfish, unconditional love and selfish, conditional lust. And this, of course, is an extreme illustration. And incidentally, just let me say that God doesn't hold back when it comes to giving us situations in the Old Testament, even the New Testament, that are extreme situations, the extent to which sin can go. In this particular case, it involves Amnon, the son of David. It involves Tamar, actually a daughter, that she's his half-sister. But he's obviously lusting after her, and I think we would use the word lust here in the extreme sense. He was so lustful that he was sick to his stomach, and so he plotted a situation. He lied, feigned illness, and she came to get her to come and serve him with David's blessing. And she comes, and in the process, he rapes her. And the interesting dynamic here that just is illustrative of how sick lust can be is that once he had raped her, then he asked his servant to throw her out of the room and bolt the door and not let her back in. And in the Hebrew, the word basically says she's a bunch of trash. Now, that's an extreme situation here that relates to lust, and yet we know that kind of behavior does permeate culture and society and these extreme situations. Now, in the principle, I mentioned men particularly, and I think that's basically true in terms of our the way we're made and the way we operate, the way we function visually, particularly. But it doesn't exclude women, because let's not forget the illustration where Joseph was sold into Egypt. And Potiphar's wife, where he was the servant in his household, was so lustful that she was tempting him day after day after day. And she made her move, and he escapes. He runs. She grabs his cloak, and then she screams and accuses him of rape. In other words, you see the lust, it seems to me the line between lust and hate in these extreme situations is so close. So really, in looking at this passage, I simply came up with the principle that, as men particularly, we've got to learn to distinguish between unselfish, unconditional love and selfish, conditional lust. And so it's kind of like a continuum. And so let's move the continuum back over to the normalcy of relationships. And I think that what we have here is, from Genesis to Revelation, is that when sin entered the world and Adam and Eve sinned, it introduced humankind to the potential of deterioration, particularly in this relationship of intimacy between a man and a woman. And we see the extent of the depravity here in these two illustrations. But the fact of the matter is that we're all affected by sin, men and women. And when Jesus Christ came, he introduced us to a concept that the world did not understand, and that's love. Love in the ultimate sense. And when John wrote in his little epistle, he says, this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for one another. So here in the New Testament, we have this incredible illustration and manifestation of love, understanding love. And because Jesus loved us, we can love as Christ loved us. That's the ultimate way down at the other end of the continuum, in a sense, meaning that if we really love our wives as Christ loved us, we'll be willing to give our lives for them. And that lifts the concept of love to a whole different level. Now, the fact of the matter is that there's a fine line, and let's use the word desire, because the word lust has a concept or a meaning in our minds that leans towards the negative. But God has created us with desires, but those desires can become evil, selfish, and so forth. So how do we blend what God has created in us in terms of desire in this relationship, and making sure that it is not selfish, it is not focused on ourselves, it is focused on the other person. And so God introduces us to a whole new concept there in the New Testament. So I think that relates back to answering, the question, how do we distinguish between lust or desire that is selfish and love that is focused and reflects Jesus Christ?
You being a pastor and myself at times, and I think you find yourself asking these very difficult questions during premarital counseling.
Right, absolutely.
And I'm amazed with the whole concept of unconditional love, unselfish love, is not part of the discussion prior to the marriage. And when you're involved in a premarital situation, you just know in your heart, wait a minute, slow down. This thing's going too fast in the wrong direction.
Right. Well, and one of the things I think we really need to understand is I like to illustrate it with a circle. And the larger the circle, the outer circle and the inner part of that circle let's define that as love at the ultimate level. And the New Testament writers use the word agapao, to love, agape love. And agape love is the word that is used by John in John 3:16. For God so loved the world. It's the same word that Paul used when he says, we are to love as Christ loved us. It's an action word. It has to do with doing the right thing no matter how we feel. And it's a high level of love. It's beyond feeling, it's action. Now, a part of that, moving into the closer inside, another dimension, not separate from, but you have phileo love. This is the kind of love, Paul used the word in Romans 12:10 when he said, we are to be devoted to one another in brotherly love. That's basically the word phileo, brotherly love. Love that is a friendship, love, the kind of love that we have towards our children, the kind of love that we have in a deep friendship. Now, that is something that goes along with, it's part and parcel of agape. God wants us to have those kinds of experiences, even though we'll have experiences that aren't pleasant, but we're to love anyway. We're to do the right thing. But God wants us to enjoy that relationship. Now, at the center of the circle is the concept of irao. So you have agapao, phileo, irao. And irao has to do with intimacy, sexual love in the right way as God has designed it, which is a part of agapao, agape. Now, it's interesting that the New Testament writers never use the word irao. They describe it, and I think the reason they avoided the word is it was so polluted. It would be like using words today to describe sex that we just never would use in an appropriate sense. So the Holy Spirit did not use that word in inspiring Scripture, but it's a part of what God has created. Now, here's the point I'm making with all of that, and that is that if you want to go for a definition of love in our culture today, go to Hollywood. And where do they start? Their definition of love is irao. I love you. What do they mean by that? I'm attracted to you sexually. That's basically where they begin. Where does the Bible begin? It begins with agapao. And agapao love is what is enduring and lasting. And that's why we see so many divorces in our culture today, because they define love at the center of the circle, hoping it'll be a friendship and lasting, but we know what happens. And so it's the agapao love, Christ's love within us, and the friendship we have with our mate that makes the irao, the intimacy factor, enduring in spite of the fact that that's not going to be the driving force on the long haul in terms of a relationship. And that's why so many marriages fall apart, because they say, well, I don't love you anymore. And they're defining it with irao rather than with agapao. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. It's beautifully described there, Gene. Thank you. Wow, what a lesson that's been. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. Distorted perspectives. Well, there's one. We're going to tackle that one, which is equally difficult, but we'll be right back with Dr. Gene Getz.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Welcome back, and we're with our good friend today, and honored to have him, Dr. Gene Getz. He heads up the Life Essential Bible and BiblePrinciples.org. It is a terrific resource. Check out that website. And by the way, Gene, congratulations. Your new website is beautiful. I really like it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
That's BiblePrinciples.org. And the whole point of all of this is the Life Essential Bible. We've been talking about it for quite some time here on the Dove Radio and TV, and let me encourage you to check this out at the bookstores, or you can go to BiblePrinciples.org and order one. They're beautiful, and has over 1,500 QR codes from Genesis to Revelation. And each time you see one of those QR codes, if you have a QR reader on your smartphone or your tablet, you can just run it over that, and Gene will pop up in a video and teach you on that Bible principle from the Bible, and it's wonderful. And he's updating those, and you don't even know it. And so what we're discussing today is one of those principles, and all of this is on a little video if you have a QR code reader and you have one of the Life Essential Bibles. So we want to talk about distorted perspectives, and interesting, this is found in the book of Acts, chapter 25. And should we not be surprised as some unbelievers accuse us of being foolish and out of touch with reality because of our faith in Jesus Christ? I think some of the toughest criticism, Gene, comes from within the church.
Yeah, it does. It does. And in this context, basically, it's from outside, obviously. It's the whole setting there is the Apostle Paul, as you remember, was taken captive there in Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. He escaped and went down to Caesarea, appeared before Governor Felix and then his successor, Festus. And then Festus, being intrigued when King Agrippa came to visit, he had Paul give his testimony before Agrippa. And so you read this chapter, it's a beautiful statement of Paul's testimony because he describes the fact that he was a Jew, that he was persecuting Christians, he was putting them in prison, he was consenting to their death. He was on his way to Damascus. Jesus appeared to him, and this bright light, and God intervened in his life and said he was going to have a ministry to the Gentiles even before kings, and of course here it's happening. And towards the end of the testimony, Festus just interrupts and shouts, actually, and he says, "You're out of your mind. You're crazy. You're nuts. Too much study is driving you crazy, mad." And Paul, of course, responded and said, "I'm not out of my mind, most excellent Festus." In other words, he maintained dignity there. On the contrary, I'm speaking words of truth and good judgment. Now, again, in the opening part, we talked about the continuum of extremes. And again, we have a continuum here, I think, of an extreme. But as I was reflecting on this, just refreshing my own mind, Perry, my mind went to a book a friend of mine gave to me, and I was reading it. And basically, it's by James Molben. And I don't think he would classify himself in the same evangelical frame, perhaps, as we was, though that we are. But he believes in God, no question about it. But he wrote a book called God and Science, and he wrote it to what he called the new atheists. And the new atheists, and he quotes one of them to make his point. And I have that quote here, and he refers to Dr. Harris, one of the new atheists. And this is how he describes spirituality: patently absurd, increasingly maladaptive, obliging us to lie to ourselves, the altar of human ignorance, the hideous fantasies of a prior age, the abject embrace of the preposterous, lying to ourselves about the nature of reality, subscribing to divisive religious myths, and a ludicrous obscenity. Now, that's a new atheist describing you and me. Wow. Because we believe in God and we believe in the Bible. And basically what Dr. Molben does is that he points out that this doesn't even match with the old atheists. At least they have a sense of dignity. But he says the new atheists, in the sense of these he's quoting, are filled with absolute arrogance. He said this is the most arrogant way to express what they believe in their mind is truth, there is no God. And I thought, you know, Paul could identify with that.
Yeah, right.
You know, in this situation
Wow.
where you know, in this particular situation, we have Festus saying, Paul, you're nuts. You're crazy. You're out of your mind. So that's you know, way over on the one end of the continuum, but I think we can bring that back to those of us who are evangelicals living in our culture today, our young people who are going to college, and they're hearing professors saying, you don't believe that stuff. You believe that premarital sex is wrong? You believe that homosexuality is a sin? I mean, you know, that's ludicrous. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the kind of thing that our young people are facing today, I believe, in many of our classrooms, and I think it's a reality. So, I was just, in this principle, I was just simply saying, we shouldn't be surprised if some unbelievers accuse us of being foolish and out of touch with reality because of our faith in Jesus Christ. Nothing new.
You know, what's so interesting about this, Gene, is that Paul went on and never recanted his testimony.
Never.
Never. And he never softened his testimony. In fact, in the midst of this opposition, he was very dignified. He was very honoring to the position, but he was unwavering in his conviction. And I think what happens today is that we're trying to find a way to be more palatable, and in that we are softening the message, if not eliminating the message.
Right, and that's a fine balance. You know, how do you communicate your faith, what you believe, and never stoop to the level of the other side that accuses with arrogance and lack of dignity and makes fun of. And I'm generalizing there because not every person who doesn't believe in God or who doesn't believe in the Bible treats people with lack of dignity, but you know, they do, and it is, you know, they look down their nose as, you know, I remember an interview that I saw on television by a well-known news anchor, interviewer, saying, looking down their nose, as it were, you don't believe that. And she was talking to a very, very well-known individual who has respect and dignity and success. And it was like, you don't believe that. It's down the nose, as it were, and that comes across, I think. By the way, the other side, I think, with Paul, though he didn't compromise, he did ask for prayer when he wrote to the Ephesians that he'd never be ashamed of the gospel of Jesus. So he probably was tempted, you know, to back away because he was human. But he didn't yield to that temptation, and he sought prayer that he would always stand firm and stand strong. So I think we have a beautiful illustration here in Paul and what, you know, for our lives.
There's one other little point to this that's very outstanding to me, and that is that he stood in front of those who accused him of being stupid and nuts and ridiculous and all of those things, but he never fired back at that level. He never fired back, well, you're crazy, you're stupid, you're dumb. I mean, he never returned that kind of criticism. I'm sure you're aware, in the state of Oregon, we're losing our governor this week.
Oh yeah, been following the story.
Yeah, it's all over the place, and it's easy to jump on the bandwagon and shoot arrows and darts, but at the end of the day, this is a sad situation. Everybody hurts, everybody loses with this. And it would be easy to criticize him and his fiancée and all the things that they stand for. At the same time, they're fallen human beings.
That's right, and the replacement and all that goes along with that is a whole other story. But, you know, as Christians, you know, Paul addressed this in 2 Timothy, and I'm just paraphrasing by memory, but he defines what it means to be able to teach. Didaktikos is the word there. And he said to Timothy, he said, the servant of the Lord must not quarrel.
Yeah.
The servant of the Lord must be gentle. The servant of the Lord must be patient. Even when we are accused wrongly, we are to respond with gentleness and patience, able to teach. In the context there is our character. Now, it doesn't mean we'll always be successful, but it's a great testimony.
Got to go, Jane. Thanks, buddy. Keep up the good fight and keep up the faith, and look forward to having you back soon. Blessings to you and your staff.
Thank you, and God bless.
Okay. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.